All right, what's up, everybody? This is Two, and we have with me,
Pheng
and we are the No Egg Podcast, aka
Nông Cây
Non K
Podcast.
Podcast. Can you tell everybody why we picked out this No Egg Non K Podcast?
Yeah, we just figured it'd be kind of funny. We've been talking about doing a podcast, and we got onto the subject of what are we going to talk about? And we were both Hmong men. We talked about, and we're both involved in our physical health. So we talked about doing a podcast about Hmong men's health, and what more appropriate name than Nông Cây?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, when we talked about this, because we talked about this like a year ago, I think.
Yeah.
And we're just starting it now. So the idea has been there for a while, but we were trying to refine like what should the podcast be about. And there's one thing that we noticed that there was a gap in the Hmong community with Hmong men. Like there's a lot of topics that never get talked about publicly, and I think that's actually kind of, I'm not saying it is a little bit wrong. I think some of those topics need to be addressed.
Yeah.
Because we don't hear it ever like.
And sometimes they are addressed, but I think not by us, and I think or us as Hmong men, and I think our it's not that our voices aren't already heard, but I think by not addressing these things, by not calling out things in our community, I think we're doing ourselves a disservice too. So I think this is much needed. And so I thank you for the opportunity. And even inviting me to kind of being a part of this.
Yeah. And I think too, it's important to note too, like we're not sitting here trying to be like we're not subject experts, we're not doctors, we're just freaking dudes who just live our own lives, have our own experiences in the world, but we want to at least talk about it because it's gonna if it's not something that we're gonna learn from each other, we're at least gonna raise the topic, and the topic is gonna allow other people to maybe bring in questions, or maybe we can get guests in here who have like analyzed these topics to a deep degree, and then they can share that with us, which in turn gets shared with the listener, and then the listener gets to learn something out of it. So the ultimate goal, I think, we just want, like, how can we make our community better as a whole,
open
right?
The conversation
open the conversation
between men. I listened to a lot of podcasts, and they were talking about the stats of podcast listeners being majority men, and I think that is the case because I think we a lot of the podcasts, they talk about very sensitive topics and stuff like that. But I think we as men, we don't have these conversations normally. And I think that's why we listen to...
we definitely don't.
Yeah, that's why we listen to podcasters, and we get a lot of our information from
what podcast do you listen to?
Dude, I'm a big Theo Von fan. I'm more of a comedy podcast guy. I just listen to funny. I think when you deliver something in a funny way, I think it allows more people to listen.
Yeah.
I think when you're too pro one way or the other, or agenda driven, I think you turn a lot of people off. And I think comedy has a way of bringing people together.
So Theo Von, who else?
Yeah, Theo Von, Tim Dillon. I'm a big Rogan guy. I know we talked a lot about Rogan, and I think it's just...
he kind of started this whole thing.
Yeah.
I feel like we're just trying to be our own Hmong Rogans.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, we'd be lying if we said that Rogan doesn't lead the whole thing, right? If we're saying that Rogan didn't, and we're not sucking Rogan off, but we're just he started this whole thing that everybody. I mean, there's like when I go on Spotify and I look for a new podcast, I literally don't even know what to listen to because there's like so many freaking podcasts, and we're just adding one to the list.
And everybody that I listen to now, I heard from Rogan, and they were guests on Rogan.
Yeah, they started right. So it is
Andrew
true.
Huberman's, the Lex Friedman's.
Lex Friedman and the Huberman.
All those guys. So, but yeah, thank you for this opportunity. Because like I said, I'm here personally and selfishly to kind of work on my own communication skills.
And it's hard, man. It's hard. I've done a few podcasts in the past. I've been lucky to have had the opportunity to speak in front of like a whole junior high school, like 200-300 students, panels. So I'm a little bit used to it.
Yeah.
And maybe you're not as much, but I give you credit for trying it and for attempting it, because it is hard. Like, we've got a camera facing us right now. We can hear ourselves in the headset, and it's like we have two studio lights facing us
Right.
too.
Mic in
So
front of
yeah,
us,
we
yeah.
definitely threw a little bit of money to try to get a studio together for y'all. But that's because we wanted to really share this topic because we're pretty, we really do think we do got to address this stuff within the Hmong community.
Yeah, and these conversations need to be had.
They
So
need to be
yeah,
had.
thank you, man. And I have to ask you, like, why did you pick me? I mean, you have a great circle of friends, so many people that
Yeah.
potentially that you could potentially choose from. Like, why me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So actually, we met back in 2012, I think, something like
yeah,
that. And you were
a while
bodybuilding at
ago.
the time,
Yeah,
so we'll have to put something on the screen here where you
yeah,
guys can see Peng Bolo back in the
yeah.
day.
Back in the day,
But yeah, Peng was
lost a little weight since then,
actually
but
yeah, Peng was, man, he was pretty beast mode. He was bodybuilding. He was competing in bodybuilding. So that's when I
thank you.
first met you. Um, and I think at the time I was trying to become a firefighter too. And so I know that like actually you were my personal trainer for like a little while
Yeah.
to trying to get me ready for the fire academy. And then later on, I kind of followed your, obviously because we're friends on Facebook.
Yeah.
I just kind of kept watching what you were doing. I saw that you started your own business. You became a dad. You have your two daughters,
Yeah.
and I just love the way like that you would raising your kids and that you were pursuing your own passions. That's the biggest thing. When I saw is that you were pursuing your own passion because bodybuilding takes a crap
Yeah.
ton of effort, right? And then now what you're doing is you have your own farm. You're doing lip balms and like working with
Thank
bees, and it's just like you're doing stuff that you want to do, and you're following something that you're passionate about. And so I just think that I'm kind of that way as well.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to get with you, and so that we could talk about things like that because, um,
Yeah, because you have your own business in the auto service industry, like, and you've been at that for about 6, 7 years now. You've been doing it for some time
Yeah.
now, and dude, like, props to you, man. I look up to you a lot just because as a business owner, and I'm fairly new to it, but I'm realizing how much work goes
Yeah, it's a
into
ton of
it,
work.
promoting yourself, and like, there's a vulnerability to putting yourself out there and gambling in yourself and betting in yourself.
Yeah,
And so
100%.
props to you, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, and then the big thing too is like we're both business owners, right? So we're gonna talk about little things like that because
Yeah.
we know that there's Hmong guys out there, Hmong girls out there who are starting stuff, and we know that there's people who are out there who've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
So we want to learn from those people too, but we also want to try to like not inspire, but at least throw some grains of seeds out there into the community and just be there's it doesn't matter what you do, right? You can become a
Right.
doctor, you can become whatever you want to be. But we're both in the world of like being entrepreneurs now,
Yeah.
and so it's kind of nice to share that with other people to let them
Yeah.
know, like, yo, you can
Yeah.
try to create your own path. I
Right.
mean, we're in America, we're in the best country to probably do that, you know?
Yeah, and we're in a great place to kind of do that, especially as a Hmong community. Like,
Yeah, for
I
sure.
talk about this a lot, and I always tell my friends, and they're kind of tired of hearing this, but like, um, we're in a very unique place. We have a niche community, and the Hmong community is thriving. We're slowly entering the middle class. There's more and more expendable incomes, and everything's so much more accessible now. If
Yeah.
you like, look at us here. We have our own platform to talk
Yeah.
on. Essentially, it's just a camera, some lights, and a mic.
Right.
I think when we were younger, and I'm using this as an example, but we used to make fun of like Instagram models like 10 years ago.
Right.
If you were an Instagram model, like you're not a real model. But nowadays, you're like an Instagram, that's a real thing. You're probably looked at more as a model than maybe the traditional runway models.
Yeah.
And when we think of traditional runway models now, we kind of maybe think maybe they have a bad contract, maybe eating disorders is a part of that. But long story short, like, barrier to entry in any business or anything that you want to do is so much lower, and anybody can do it. And and so we're here. We just want to encourage people to kind of pursue their own passions.
Yeah, do their own thing, and I think we'll be able to share like the struggles that I think never gets talked about either
Yeah.
of being new business owners. Where, and that's just one side of the conversation that
Yeah.
we're gonna have, right? It's the business side of it.
Yeah. Well, if we're talking about health, career health is a
Oh,
big
career
part of
health is a
that,
huge
right?
thing. Yeah.
Like, you know,
If you're
I
ain't
think,
happy at your job, it's not good.
yeah,
If
how
your
does that
boss treats you
affect
like shit,
you?
it's not
Yeah,
good. You
yeah.
know, I mean, we're not saying every job's gonna be perfect, but I think maybe I'm striving for trying to find that. That's why I
Yeah,
started my own
you know,
business.
I think in a deep way, maybe nobody talks about it, or it's less likely that it's talked about. But everybody does. I think everybody does, and I think there's something deeply ingrained in all people that I think we just want peace, and we want to be fulfilled.
Yeah, yeah,
And you know, we spend a lot of time at our jobs. That's 40 hours
yeah,
a
yeah.
week, and if
Hey,
we're doing something we're not happy,
what's
it
your job?
sucks.
What are you doing these days? Because I know you're wearing a gorilla pastor shirt,
Yes.
and so let's tell the people what that shirt what that shirt's about, because that's your company, right? Gorilla Pastures.
Yep. So Gorilla Pastures, about 2 years ago, me and my wife, we left the city. We left our busy careers to kind of start our business and our hobby farm. And so there we raise laying hens. We did do meat birds, dairy goats. We also tap maple syrup, and we also have honeybees.
Nice.
Um, and so something we found and was that we can make lip balms and
Yeah.
hand balms out of the beeswax and propolis. And so we have a website that where we sell our lip balm and our lotions.
Shameless plug. What's the
Yeah, shameless
website?
plug, Gorilla Pastures. We're also on
Just
Facebook
just
and Instagram.
gorillapastures.com.
GorillaPastures.com.
Okay.
Yep, it's gorilla as in guerrilla warfare. So
So
it's gorillas. Yes,
GUERRILLA
two R's, two
pastures with
L's.
an S at the end.
Yep, and
Nice.
I think people are really liking what we're doing, and we're 3 months in again. Well, we've been doing this for a long
Yeah.
time, but we found the lip balm stuff a couple months ago, and you know it's kind of taken off, and we've been at it for a long time. Like
Yeah.
our business structure has changed so much since then,
Yeah.
and like I wanted to ask you, like in those starting periods of your career or your business, like how much has it changed and how long
I
did
feel like
it take
it's
for you to find your niche?
yeah. So with our businesses, I started on the side. I was a full time firefighter for a long time. For about 9 years, I was a full time
Yeah.
firefighter. But I started my business in between while I was still firefighting, and I think it's a little bit different when you do it that way because I had the safety of a salary already.
Yeah.
And so even though I was hungry to grow this business, and I ran it for 6 years doing both things, so I was working my ass off doing both. But I really feel like my business just started now in the
Yeah.
last year. Now that I've gone full time, it's kind of funny to say that because it hasn't. I've learned a lot before this year when I've gone all in. But I'm learning new things now that make me feel like I just started my business, even
Yeah.
though the business is 7 years old.
Yeah.
But yeah, to go back to your question, it's niche. I feel like it gets more niched every year.
Yeah.
The stronger I get into the one or few skills that we offer, the more and more we believe in it to the point where all of a sudden we're like extremely niche. And in
Yeah.
my industry, in the auto detailing window tint world, my goal is to be more niche. You know, it's not
Yeah.
just everybody can run their. You know, they say in business you have three ways to pretty much run them. You're either going to be
Right.
the cheapest in town, you're going to be the highest quality in town, or you're going to be fast service. Like one of those
Right.
three is kind of what
Yeah.
you choose what you want to
Yeah.
be.
Oh, that's
and,
great.
And I kind of made the call that we're not going to be the cheapest in town. I don't want that. It's not the standard that I hold. And then I don't want to be the fastest in town either. Fastest doesn't always mean better.
Right.
I want to be the guy who can take the time to put out the most quality work
Right,
because
yeah.
that challenges me better. And so yeah, I think it'll always change. You know, I think it'll always
Yeah.
change when with you. And I mean, it's like what you said. It does change.
Yeah.
It does change.
Because we started with this idea, and it's still our goal to produce food and teach other people how to
Yep.
grow food. But you know, if I think about like gardening, I'm not gonna out garden like our parents, right? Like
Right.
the older generation that have been doing it for so long, right? I'm not out. I'm not gonna grow more chickens or tap more maple syrup than anybody else, or have more eggs,
Yep.
or even be competitive price wise. So yeah, like it's taken a little while to kind of find our niche, and
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, but I think yeah, it'll take a while, and mine's still constantly refining it. I think that's the beauty of business a little bit. You're always kind of refining the thing. But let me ask you too, like, what made you actually start that business? I mean, obviously, because you're still working, I believe.
Yes.
You still got a job,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So the story is I quit my job and we started our business. Right? It's just more romantic that
Yep,
way.
yep.
But yeah, I still currently have a job. I'm an overnight mechanic.
Okay.
When I say I quit my job, I left my salary
Okay.
position.
So you had your salary job
Yep,
prior to all that.
yep. And now I work a job that where I punch in and punch out, and it's actually really nice, man.
Yeah.
When I worked the salary position, like I was working in the office, answering emails, taking phone calls at home, doing programming, and I was just
Eh,
always in.
yeah.
And I don't have the ability to distinguish work from not work,
Yeah.
and so I'm always
Yeah,
on,
yeah,
and
yeah. I get that.
that was just mentally draining for me. Um, and yeah, it was in a bad place, and it just took a lot out of me. I was a new father, and I just said after a while, I just
Yeah, because
wasn't
how
happy.
long did you work at that place?
Um,
Because you're in your 30s now,
yep,
right?
I'm 32 now,
32.
so
So what? How old were you when you worked that job, that
yeah,
salary position?
yeah. So I've been salary since after I graduated college. I went to
Okay.
college, so I've been working in salary position since like 2013.
Okay.
My first salary
Yeah.
position, I made $28,000
Yeah.
a year. Again, 9 to 5, in the office, answering emails at home, taking phone calls,
Yeah.
working with volunteers, doing programming on the weekends. Right, so it's like a 60-hour work week.
So without naming the
Yeah,
company, what was the job like? What did you do?
I just did inner city youth programming.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, like outreach
That's pretty cool.
programming. Great, right? I loved it. That's
Yep.
exactly what I wanted to do. But $28,000,
Yeah.
if you take
Yeah.
that into a 40-hour work week, that's about like 12, $13 an
Well, you got to
hour.
make a living.
Yeah,
I get that. I
yeah,
get that.
and so it's rough, and yeah, so I never made a ton of money or anything like
Yep.
that, but doing that, and I was invested. I was I was totally committed to growing my career. I just followed this traditional model
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
you went to school, went to college, and then you get a job,
You land a
and
good
then
job and you
yeah,
call
and
it a
that's what you
day.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so eventually I just said, all right, I don't want to do that anymore. Like
Yeah.
that's not like I love community work and I love working with young people, but um, it didn't pay the bills. And when you realize when you're working for a company, you're not you're not doing what you love. You're
Yeah.
doing what they need you to do.
Right.
And so yeah, it was tough. And I got to a point where I said this is too much, and I couldn't. I wasn't happy doing
Yeah.
it, and I wanted to do something on my own. And so yeah, 2 years ago I left that, took just a hourly position where I can focus on my kids and be fully invested in my business. And so that's what we're doing, and we're having such a fun time doing it, man. Um, we're out there with the chickens. I have two kids now. Every day in the summer, I get to take my kids outside. We pick
Yeah.
eggs, play with the chickens, play with the
Yeah.
goats.
And you grew up in North
Yeah,
Minneapolis?
I grew up in the
Right.
city,
So
so
it's completely
completely
different than what
different.
you're doing now.
But us being Hmong, like I think it fulfills this deep calling in me.
Yeah.
Our parents were farmers. Our
Right.
parents lived off the land, and so it it I
Yeah, it's like a
always wanted.
deep rooted
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
for you. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. It's hard to put it in words, but
No,
yeah,
but that's what's up. That means
yeah,
that you're starting your business with, it's something deep within you that made you start your business.
yeah,
Even though we know that business is business at some point,
yeah,
at least the roots of the business and the idea
yeah,
are deep rooted into like who you are, right?
yeah,
So that's pretty cool. You're essentially moving on. You're pushing the tradition, or you're pushing the culture in your own way.
yeah,
But it is closely related and
yeah,
tied to Hmong culture and Hmong
yeah,
things, because
yeah.
we are like kind of farmers at the root
Right, yeah.
and stuff like that. So
And
yeah, no, it's pretty sick.
I have to ask you, like, you were a firefighter.
Yep.
What made you leave that position to like be fully invested in your business now?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I basically got to the point where I realized, when you have a full time job as a firefighter, and I was never good at like limiting how much work I take at my
Yeah,
business,
yeah,
because if there was more, then I was gonna take more of it.
yeah,
And it just eventually got to a point where I kind of felt like I had to make a decision whether I stay a firefighter
yeah,
only, or run my business only, or I run both like I've been doing.
yeah,
But then but then realizing that takes a lot out of me.
yeah.
And so I was like, I think I'm gonna give it a shot.
Sorry to cut you off, but do you think that's like a Hmong thing where it's like we don't want to turn down work, and so we're always just busy and
Man, I don't know. I think that's hard to say. I think it depends for everybody. I think for me, it's just I knew that every client interaction brings me one step closer to growing the tree.
or I mean, when you were a firefighter, you said, like to separate work
Yeah,
from
yeah.
play.
Well, I think it's always hard to separate work. I mean, so I think there's some people that can do it better than others
Yeah.
for sure. For me, I don't because my job. I tend to do it's just the way I am. I've always liked to do jobs or things that I like to do. So
Yeah.
if I'm interested in it and I'm passionate about it, then I know that like it's gonna be better for me.
Yeah.
But if I don't like it, then I'm really just not gonna perform well.
Yeah.
And I got to the point with firefighting where I kind of stopped liking it a little bit. I like the idea, but the work itself, I kind of I began to not like it as much.
Yeah.
So then I was like, I actually like running my business. It's a lot of work. It's not fun every day, but when I wake up and I would go to my business, I know why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to wake up for as opposed to firefighting. You get to the point where, if people don't know firefighting, there's a lot of things that come with it. You obviously go into fires, but it's much more than that. You deal with people who are shot or killed or committing suicide, shooting, stabbings, drownings. You see all these things, and I just get to the point where I say, man, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
And
I don't want to see that anymore.
all that in on a daily basis. Well, like, yeah, like I'm in therapy now. Just started, I went to
nice.
my first session. But
all right,
it's kind of like what I
first session, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, tell us about that because that's kind of I'm a big proponent for therapy too. So tell me how your experience went.
It's just my first session.
Yep.
We spent like the first, it's a 50-minute session. We spent the first 30 minutes just kind of doing the standard protocol, like what are you in for? This is your rights, like confidentiality and stuff like that. We didn't really get into it until the last 20 minutes. But like it was just nice. It was just nice to bitch. It was just nice to complain, and it was nice to kind of talk to somebody and to hear yourself talk out loud about some of these challenges you're facing. And it was nice to just have somebody listen. And more than that, like somebody that knows the subject a little bit better and that can help you organize your thoughts. And help you identify key things that may be trigger points for you. And I went in because I've done so many great things in my life, and I've started so many great things, but I have a tendency to shoot myself in the foot.
Yeah.
And as a father of two, and married, we have a house, our own business. Like the stakes were just so much higher, and knowing that this was the story of my life, essentially just shooting myself in the foot. Like I just I just knew I couldn't mess this one up, and I wanted to make sure I'm being proactive on like identifying what my challenges were. And so it was really nice. I'm really looking forward to my next session. It is just through video chat.
Yep.
So I wasn't sure how it was gonna go.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of things I'm scared of doing, but that was one thing I was really nervous about.
Yeah, why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? It just like, is it like ego? Is it pride? Is it Hmong man? Like, what is it? Because I had a little bit of all that, right?
Yeah.
I'm asking you because before I went into therapy, I kind of had a little bit of all that pride, ego, thinking I know how to hold my own.
Yeah,
I kind of had all that, right? So I'm asking you, what took you? What made you go there, and how did you feel about it? Why didn't you go before?
Yeah, essentially, my thought process was, well, I knew I always wanted to go, and I knew that it'd be beneficial to me. Would say now, like, man, I was raising like 8 kids on $5 an hour, and it was tough, but we did it, yada yada, and so for me to go, man, I'm making way more money than you. I have only 2 kids, and I can navigate the American culture so much better because I was born here. Something made me feel inadequate,
right?
And it kind of was
as if your problems maybe are not as like bigger problems than what theirs were.
Yeah, and it kind of made me feel less of a man essentially,
yeah.
because it was kind of like, all right, I'm admitting defeat. I'm admitting that I can't handle this on my
Right.
own. When previous generations and so many people before me and now are, or that I think now are doing it. Like I didn't even know you were involved.
Yeah, I mean,
Because so
I've gone.
even kind of looking at you, I was kind of like, man, dude, two did it. Like,
Well,
what's wrong with me that I can't do it? You know?
and that's so like for me, one big thing that I wanted to, because I took a lot of times in my 20 to, I think, build this identity of like strength, right?
Yeah.
I was in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
I used to lift a lot of weights. I've done boxing matches. I've
Yeah.
trained Muay Thai.
Yep.
I became a fireman. So all these ideas of like strong men,
Yeah.
right? But then eventually, once I got to the point where I started feeling parts of anxiety, either because of the things that I saw at work as a firefighter, or just the overload of stimulus from both having two jobs, being a husband. I just got to a point where it was almost like a breakdown, where I realized, I need to like find out more about like what
Yeah.
it means to how to think properly and stuff like that. And I was always kind of like you. I was always just comparing, right?
Yeah,
We always
yeah,
compare the
yeah.
OGs to us. We're always like,
Yeah.
well, they did so much
And
more.
just anybody else. Yeah.
Yeah, we're like, they did so much. So why am I even bitching about my
Yeah.
problems?
Yeah.
But my friends, luckily, I have some great friends, and they kind of forced me and they pushed me to go do it, and
Right.
eventually I did. And now and that's why I'm like super happy to hear that you're going, because I learned so much by going to therapy. And that was maybe 3-4 years ago. I haven't gone back for a while, but it changed my entire perception on therapy. I realized
Yeah.
like there's so much to be learned about just how we think. So much to learn when someone else tells you how you think. Someone telling you how you
Yeah.
think is important as
Yeah.
well. And it's like, those are not the conversations that we'll have with our friends.
Right,
They're
yeah.
not conversations we're gonna have with our dads.
Yeah.
The people that we would love to do it most with. But the truth is, they're going through their own problems too.
Exactly.
So how can they help you
Yeah.
when they're trying to fix their own problem, and we're
Yeah.
trying to fix our own problem? So we all got problems.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I learned. Like when I started really seriously looking into this, I was, what I realized was like so many people are using this tool, and for me to not use this tool, I'd be doing a disservice to myself. And there's so many people that are dealing with so much more or less or same amount, but they're using a therapist to kind of help them identify what their challenges are,
Right.
or even just a vent. And I realized once I got into it, like, oh, this is just like anything else. Like I've got to take care of my mind. I've got to take care of my emotions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I've got to
100%.
vent, and I've got to kind of talk about these things. And I have a great wife who pushed me into it, and I've always just kind of used her. She's going to school to be a therapist.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I was just
that's
kinda
awesome.
like, oh, you're my personal therapist. I don't
Yeah,
need one.
right.
Like I'm just gonna vent to you. But that was taxing on her.
Yeah.
That became a lot for her
Yeah.
too, because I have so much.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm it's not like I came from a rough background, but it's not like I'm some crazy messed up person.
Right.
Where I'm unloading so much, but
But you gotta learn how to deal with
yeah,
the things that you're
yeah.
thinking.
And that
Yeah.
was unfair for her. And but yeah, she was just the same. She pushed me into this, I'm so glad I did it. And we have our next one scheduled. I'm really looking
Nice.
forward to it, and I'm hoping I can share with our audience and you guys.
Yeah, your experience a little bit too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
No,
what
I think
did
that's
you
important.
take from it? Like you said, you've been involved.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the biggest thing I took from it was just one thing that I remember the most is she painted like this picture to me that basically, if your life per day, if you look at it on a daily basis, has like an energy bar. So it's like if you have like if you're playing Street Fighter and you've got that green energy bar, it's like you have so much of it in a day. So with me, I was just doing a lot. I was full-time firefighting.
Yep.
And I took that pretty seriously, as well as running a business, which you don't have a choice but to take it seriously.
Yeah.
And then on top of being being a husband. So I was really just using a ton of my energy, and most of my green bar was going away to
Yeah.
work. So when I'd go home, I'd really just have the red part of the energy bar left. And the way she told me was, that's kind of all the garbage that's left of your energy for the
Yeah.
day.
And that's
And
also when you're scrambling. You're
Yeah.
at your most desperate.
yeah,
you know,
you're
because
tired.
yeah.
You're just you've given your all to everything
Yeah.
else, and then your wife gets to get the end the what's left of the
Yeah.
bag, you know. And that was a huge thing for me to really help me understand that
Yeah.
that it is true. If I look at my life on
Yeah.
a daily basis as an energy bar,
Yeah.
I have to be wise how I
Yeah.
utilize that energy, you know, because
Yeah.
if I do something big in the morning, I waste all my energy. Well, then it's gonna take away from maybe my energy
Right.
in the evening, and so it's like learning how to navigate that. That was the biggest thing that I took away
Yeah.
from therapy. But I can tell you that one little thing has changed my perception on how to run my day to day life so much that like I said, I'm a proponent for therapy. I
Yeah.
think it's huge. I think it's important. I think in the Hmong community too, Hmong guys.
Yeah.
There's a and tell me if you think that I'm wrong, but I feel like the ego in the Hmong community seems to be like the
Yeah,
running
yeah,
factor
yeah.
for Hmong men. You know,
Yeah, and I don't know if this is unique to the Hmong community. Oh, well, maybe
Yeah.
especially in the Hmong community.
especially in the Hmong
but
community. Yeah, you're right.
I-
Men as a whole.
Yeah, I think it's hard to ask for help, and that's not something that we traditionally think as masculine.
Right, right.
And asking for help and being in a genuine way and being vulnerable.
Yeah, be vulnerable for sure.
Because yeah, like just that's
Well, I
just
think
the scary thought.
it makes you stronger to be vulnerable, you
Yeah.
know. That's the thing that I would really like things to change is like, and that's why I don't think I closed my point earlier, but I was talking about like boxing and firefighting and marine and all these things.
Yeah.
And the reason I want to talk about all this stuff too, and I want to share with people is like, because some people do have this idea of like, oh, too, you've done
Yeah.
this, you've done that, you've done this, and I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, but it doesn't mean that I also don't have to address my mental side of things. You know,
Right, right.
Sure, I've been tested in different areas, but
Yeah.
I don't want people to think that. And that's where I go back to. I thought that doing all those things would make me very strong, and they
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
But in the same token, it's also made me realize that like, doesn't matter what experience you got. You could be,
Yeah.
you know, and we see it with veterans a lot, like Navy SEALs, people who've done crazy, police officers, things who do that, things like that, and even people who don't do things like that. But mental health is so important that it doesn't matter what field you do or how strong you might look or
Yeah.
how big you are. Like, you know, you could be Ronnie Coleman or whatever,
Right.
but everybody's got a freaking some mental things that they have to deal with, and if you don't
Yeah.
deal with them, they're gonna like haunt you, and they're gonna affect you, and they're not just gonna affect you, but they're gonna affect the people that you like, you know, or
Right.
that you
Yes.
love, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah, there's so much like mental anguish that you're dealing with, and you know, and nobody really knows the answer or how to
Yeah.
kind of cope with those things. And I'm realizing like it doesn't make me any less of a man.
No, absolutely
or
not,
anything
man.
Like that. Essentially, just like anything else, you know, you want to address your weaknesses. And,
Yep.
Or not even weaknesses. Address areas that maybe you need to work on.
yeah, things that you can sharpen a little better. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's just like working out. I mean, you come from a bodybuilding
Yeah,
background. I've done all kinds of physical things, and it's like you can train your body, blah blah blah, all the time. But eventually, you know, those muscles don't mean as much if your mind is not
Right. Yeah.
good, right? If your
Yeah.
mind's not good, it's like I'm gonna bring up a topic that I'm sure you've been around at some point. It's like you look at like somebody who's super fit, right?
Yeah.
Somebody who's like all about fitness.
Yeah.
They like count all their macros. They're counting everything, protein, carbs. They know
Yeah.
everything that they eat. But then at a certain point, it almost becomes like a disease, right?
Yeah.
Like those people mentally, if they don't eat right, they're like fucked up for the day.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, I forgot my meal. I'm like
Yeah.
300 calories under.
Yeah.
So that's a problem too.
There's so much. There's so many things that goes into health, right? We talk about
Yeah.
career, we talk about physical, we talk about nutrition. Mental is such a big part.
Yeah,
of
it's
that,
a huge part
you
of it.
know, and it goes unaddressed.
It goes
in our
unaddressed,
community,
yeah.
and not just Hmong community, and men or in everybody.
everybody,
And,
yeah.
it's so accessible these days. Like you're really doing it yourself a disservice.
Yeah. Well, like you said,
Even-
yours is virtual. Yours is
Yeah.
virtual, right? So yeah, you don't
And
even
when I
gotta
started
leave.
when my wife started looking into it, she was like, "Oh, your plan covers this. I don't have a great
Nice.
plan.
Right.
Like I work in a freaking
But it still
plant,
covers it.
and they were like, oh yeah, dude, you have free sessions. You can just go and do this. And
Yeah.
this is becoming a more and more a bigger topic in our community.
Yeah. And if it's not, we're trying to bring it out.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
trying to bring it out.
yeah.
We're trying to talk about this stuff so that other Hmong men can either talk about it and know that it's all good to talk about it. Like like you said, it doesn't make you any less of a man.
Yeah.
If anything, I think it makes you even better of a man because
Yeah.
now you're really trying to figure out that inner demon that we all fight, right?
Right, yeah. And it's going to make you better at your job. It's going to make you better at your business. It's going to make you a better husband.
Happier person.
Better dad.
Yeah,
like,
happier
a better
person.
person. So,
I always say,
overall.
I always say, if you can't like yourself, man, it's hard to make.
Yeah.
Like, how can other people? If you're not 100% comfortable with who you are, to the best of your ability, and know that you've done all your homework, then how can you give your best version? Like, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
I want to give the best version of myself to
Yeah.
the people in my life.
Yeah.
And if I'm fighting my demons the entire time,
Yeah.
then how can I give them the best version of myself,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, it is selfish because I want to be a better version of myself, but we do that because we love the people in our lives, right?
yeah,
We
yeah.
want them to see us be our best version, and then that influences them too.
Yeah.
It sends a good energy.
And I think when we're not dealing with our own challenges, the word of 2022 was toxic
Yeah.
friends, right? Those are people that just aren't dealing with their own challenges,
Right.
or that haven't been dealing with their own faults. And we talk a lot about our parents and stuff. Like they were so busy, they never had that luxury.
Yeah.
And I think we owe it to them now that we're here to address our issues.
Yeah, to
that
address
we
the issues,
can-
for sure.
we can be better parents and better people.
Yeah,
to the people
absolutely,
around
absolutely.
us. So
Constant growth, constant
Yeah.
growth.
definitely see a therapist. Talk to your healthcare provider.
Yeah.
It's readily available.
Yeah, if it works for you, if it's something that you think that you
Yeah.
need,
Oh man, hot take. I think everybody needs it. Even
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you don't think you
Yeah.
need it, I'm telling
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Because
I think
maybe
you're
you're
right.
just not
I agree.
aware. You might
I mean-
just you might be doing well, and you may not think, or you may not be focused on some of these challenges. But
Well, to go back to the point that you were saying there, right there, now that you say it like that, I think you're right. It's like a physical checkup, right?
Yeah.
We go in once a year to see how our blood pressure is.
Yeah,
Is our
yeah.
blood sugar levels correct? Is our body fat percentage where it should be for our age? Is our BMI percentage? Are we like obese, or are we, And mental health, it's a little bit harder because there's not really ways to like maybe measure it the same way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're right. You should go in and just check where you are with
Yeah.
yourself,
Yeah.
because no, absolutely, you're right.
Yeah.
You gotta check in like that with yourself too, to know that that all is good in all fronts.
Yeah.
Spiritually, mentally, physically, all that.
Yeah. And so when you did it, was it a family affair? Is your wife seeing a therapist?
No, it was just me.
Okay.
It was just me. I was
Yeah.
just kind of overloaded with work and
Okay.
business and
Yeah.
fire and to the people who don't know, with fire, we just see a lot of stuff.
Okay.
People being shot, stabbed,
Yeah.
killed. I've seen more dead bodies than I'd like
Yeah.
to see. And which is kind of why I left.
Yeah.
You
that's
you
brutal.
only need you
Dude,
only
yeah.
need so much of that. But yeah,
I heard somewhere where I thought they required their firefighters to see a therapist or something. I thought
they
I
don't.
learned something
They
like that in
don't,
school,
and they
or-
don't.
yeah.
And to be honest, I
Okay.
think that should be almost a rule. But
Yeah.
you got a lot of egos in the fire department. I mean, I've worked.
Yeah.
You train Muay Thai. You've
Yeah.
bodybuild,
Yeah.
and I've done all those things too. And you know how many those personalities and guys who are
Yeah.
in those things, who are alpha minded,
Yeah.
like they don't want to go talk about that or go do that. And I'm like, man. Of all things,
Yeah.
and I'll speak just from my experience as a firefighter, but as a firefighter, why wouldn't you go talk about this stuff? We see stuff
Yeah.
that like most people are not supposed to see.
Yeah,
like
that's gotta be rough.
I've seen without going into detail, I've seen like kids like hanging and
dude.
stuff.
Oh, that's
And when you
rough.
see stuff like that, like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. The next day I woke up, I went to work. Everything's good. But are you really good? Like, you know what I'm saying? You're
Yeah.
good, but are you really good?
Yeah,
And so that's just one thing. But then you think about a career of a firefighter or a police officer or people who do stuff like that. Okay, well now you see one dead body,
Yeah.
two dead body, three dead bodies, four dead bodies.
Yeah.
How many dead bodies before you start to be a little jaded?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
And
Um,
like, and what we don't realize is like being jaded. That's like a coping mechanism,
it's like a
right?
side effect of
Yeah,
seeing it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. That's
It's a way of coping, but you're still not dealing
you're
with
still
it.
not dealing with it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and that's why I always say it's like yeah, I mean it's like a cup that you fill it with dead bodies and eventually your brain is the
Oh,
cup
yeah.
and your cup gets full.
Yeah.
And so I just think that in those jobs everybody should do
Yeah.
it. But no, to answer your question, no, that's not a thing that that they require
Oh,
at all.
okay.
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah.
they should.
Yeah. In
They
so many
should.
line in
Yeah,
so
they
many line
should.
of work.
In so many lines of work.
And you don't even need to do anything that heroic. You could
Yeah,
just,
it could be anything, man.
Like when I was in youth work, hey man, if you're passionate in something that you do, you take
Right.
your homework or you take your work
You live
home
it.
with you.
Yeah, you
And
live it.
so when I was dealing with a lot of young people's like traumas
Yeah,
and
yeah.
kind of hearing their stories, like, oh dude, I couldn't help but feel bad about that.
Yeah.
And taking it home and like just thinking about what I could be doing more or how I can be helping out with the situation. And it kind of really isn't none of my business. But
Yeah.
like when you care about what you do, and I like to think most people do, yeah,
Well,
it's
so
it's hard to not take that home with you.
public
and hard
public
to not-
jobs, right? Jobs where
Yeah.
you're dealing with society a lot.
Yeah.
So like taking care of the youth or firefighting, teachers.
Yeah,
Yeah. How can you not take some of that stuff
Yeah.
home with you? It's
Yeah.
almost impossible
yeah.
to not do that. But and then so you did that because you grew up in the cities.
Yep. I grew up in the inner cities, in North Minneapolis. Great place to grow up. Met a lot of great people. It's a hard place to grow up, but there's so many teaching moments. And we were kind of in a non-traditional family. My father left at a young age. My
Yeah.
mother was really sick, and so I was kind of left to figure things out. And so I made a lot of mistakes and I made a lot of bad calls, but I met a lot of good people
Yeah.
who helped me deal with those things.
Yeah, yeah.
And kept me in the right path. And so I was very fortunate, and most people aren't. And so I'm counting my blessings, and like it's it was such a great great place to grow up, man.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
did
yeah.
you? So you're from France?
Yeah, we grew up.
Yeah.
I grew up in France.
How old were you when you came here?
I was 11
Okay.
when I moved here.
Oh.
Yeah.
Speak
So I
any
lived-
English?
No, I didn't speak no English.
No English.
I didn't even speak Hmong. I spoke just
Dude.
French only. So we
So-
grew up speaking mostly just French. My parents spoke Hmong to us growing up, but I never.
Wow.
We lived in an area where there's really no Hmong people. I mean, France, first of all, doesn't
Yeah.
have that many Hmong people.
Yeah.
For those of you out there who know one of your cousins who's Hmong or whatever.
My wife is.
Yeah.
Her family's
Yeah.
from France.
Okay.
They speak with the French accent. It's really
Yeah.
cool.
So the story for a lot of Hmong French is we don't have that many Hmong people around us.
Yeah.
It's nothing like if you live in Fresno or here or even like
Yeah, so it's not a
Milwaukee,
thriving
Wausau,
community.
La Crosse, exactly. And so because of that, I never really spoke Hmong. And then we lived there for the first 11 years. And we moved here, and then we lived on the east side, St.
Yeah.
Paul. So
Okay.
and then eventually went to high school in Lakeville. So I kind of got a whole
Okay.
different bunch
Yeah.
of different landscapes. I saw even in France, I lived in the city,
Yeah.
and then we lived in the suburbs. And then in the U.S., I lived in the city, St. Paul, and then in the suburbs. So I kind of got a
Yeah.
taste of like what it's like to grow up with suburban kids who everybody gets a car at 16, it's automatic.
Yeah.
And then versus like East Side St. Paul High School where every day you might be
You got the hand-me-downs,
Yeah,
the
every-
hand-me-down Honda Civics.
the
that,
hand-me-downs,
yeah.
but not only that, you're dealing with, and because you're from the city, some of the city schools are public schools are pretty
Yeah,
rough.
yeah,
Every day you walk in there, I mean, I got to spend it out of there fighting and stuff, and so
Yeah.
it's just you never know what's gonna happen. Versus at a suburb school, it never felt like that.
Yeah.
So and that's why I say you're from the city. You kind of have a good idea,
Yeah.
which is probably
Okay.
why you did that youth work.
Yeah,
is
yeah.
just being from the city.
Yeah, because I definitely benefited from that. Because when I talk about, I had a lot of good people, like I was involved in so many different things. And
Yeah.
I had so many people, like older people that can help guide me. I was involved in the Boy Scouts, so many, the YWCA, YMCA,
Nice.
different programs, sports. Like, I wrestled, I played football, so I
Yeah.
had coaches. and captains and
So a
stuff
lot
that
of
were
people
looking
that
out
kind of
for me.
influenced you.
Yeah, yeah, just good people, and yeah, I've been very fortunate, and like I said, not a lot of people have those opportunities, and I was lucky and unlucky in a way where my father left at a young age,
Yeah.
and my mother wasn't in a position to tell me yes or no,
Yeah, yeah.
and I just kind of did it. So I lived my whole life just kind of like, yeah, if I want
Figuring
to
it
do
out. Yeah.
something, I'm gonna go do it,
Right.
and I'm gonna figure it out, and yeah, and now, well, now as an adult, you don't have these people kind of guiding you, and that's where that therapist kind of
Yeah,
comes in,
yeah.
right? Because as a young person, you have somebody that you
And
can
that's the thing
go
too.
to.
Like, tell me if this is how you feel, because this is how I feel. I felt when I was young and I would get to the age of 30, 40, that you just figure out how life works. Like
Yeah.
you just knew
Oh,
how life
yeah.
is because you looked at older people as a kid. And I'm sure we all feel that way because we're all human beings. I think most of us feel that way. We think when you get there at 30 or 25 or 35, you think
Yeah.
like, hey, it's all good. They'll figure it out. They're adults. And then eventually we get there. I'm 34 now. We get there and we're like, I feel like I'm still just in high school,
Yeah.
but I'm a little
Yeah.
older.
Yeah.
I'm a little older.
Nothing's
I'm still
really
figuring it
changed.
out.
Yep. Yeah.
So
Because I talk about this motto a lot, right? Where it's like, you go to school, you go to work, and then, but I thought by the time I was 30, I'd be a millionaire by now.
yeah, yeah,
And then I got to like 27, 28, and I wasn't making a lot of money, and I was extremely stressed, and I was working I was working so hard, and I just was like, oh, this isn't it, like.
yeah. Right,
And
right. It's not
I think so many
happy.
people
Right.
feel that way. I think, yeah, and so that's why seeing a therapist, um, finding self value in other things
Yeah,
outside
yeah,
of work is
yeah.
so
Outside of
important.
work,
Yeah,
I don't have that. I need more of that.
self value or
No, just doing more fun things outside of work. Right
yeah,
now, I mean, at this current state in time, I feel like
yeah,
I am
yeah.
120% sucked into my work.
Is this fun for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
still,
Okay. Yeah.
I have no regrets about leaving firefighting, even though
Okay.
I cut my salary by quite a bit. I have no regrets to come into my business because the journey of like developing it and like getting people behind you, people who actually like your business, people that tell you your business is doing good, and
Yeah.
you knowing that you're the one that did all that hard work,
Yeah.
like that to me is it's just my life. Like that's the way I choose to live my life and making my
Yeah.
work a part of it. Now, is that the best thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's does it mean I work a lot? Yeah, it does. But at least I feel like I'm doing something that I want to do, And that's the
Yeah.
most important thing for me.
Yeah.
As long as I feel like I'm doing something I want to do, then I'm gonna give it my all. But
Yeah.
that can come at the cost too of you doing too much.
Yeah.
And like you're not chilling or you're
Right,
not
spreading yourself
relaxing or
too
not
thin.
disconnecting.
Yeah, because like one of the things my therapist said to me was like, yeah, you're doing a lot. Um, Try to find something where you don't have to do.
Yeah,
And me and
yeah.
my wife, we've been having these conversations a lot. It was like, uh, all we do is work. All we do is parenting. All we do is as us.
Yep.
And we've already eliminated all those things. Like we don't go out anymore. We barely see our
Right,
friends.
right.
Like my wife has to push me out of the house, and I
Yeah.
have to push her out of the house to go see her friends, um, because we see the value in being around supportive people. But
Yep.
like we've already cut so much, and yeah, there's so little time.
Yeah, you need
and-
something to liberate your mind
Yeah.
from work. That's for sure, and definitely that's something that I have to work on more myself. But it's kind of
Yeah.
weird. And to whoever's listening, ask me if tell me if I'm right or wrong, or if I don't know, because I feel like your mid 30s are also a point when you're like so focused
Yeah.
on what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure when you become maybe a little older, maybe you start to realize your timeline is short on Earth,
Yeah.
and so you kind of just relax a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I just feel like your 30s is like a point where, for me at least, where I'm like, okay, I got to work super hard. Like I feel like I'm like in like almost peak like
Yeah.
mental and physical. Like I need to make everything count
Yeah.
now, and so it's probably to my detriment.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just.
Should we just close out the episode?
Let's close
Yeah.
out the episode, but let me just turn that off. Okay, that has 4 minutes, so let's just close it right now.
Okay.
It's 50 minutes recorded.
All right. So what's our time? We're at an hour.
Yeah,
we're at
I
an
think,
hour.
yeah,
already.
we're almost at an hour, and
There's still so much to be said.
And-
in the future we'll cover all these topics and kind of get more in depth with this. But that just goes to show, like these conversations.
Yeah,
are being
these-
had,
they're
and they
necessary.
need needed to be had. Like,
Absolutely.
I mean, we were able to just talk casually
Yeah.
about this for
And
an hour.
today was really, we really did address, like, it's not just, we're not obviously going to just talk about mental health. We're going to talk about kind of everything, current events,
Yeah.
sports, physical
Yeah.
fitness, experiences through work, bring people in to talk about different things.
Yeah,
So there's
and
going to be many topics, but today
Yeah.
was kind of a little heavy, but we wanted people to really get a good vibe on why we want to do this podcast
yeah.
and like
what we're gonna talk about, and
Yeah.
a little bit about who we are,
a little bit about who we are too.
and
Yeah.
if there's something you guys want us to hear us talk about,
Yeah.
definitely write us, send us a question or
Yeah, for
anything
sure.
like that. If you want to be a part of it, yeah,
Yeah.
reach out to us, and
Wrap-
we'd love to talk to people.
All right. So we'll wrap it up like this. And episode 2, we'll see you guys on the next one.
Hey, thanks
All right.
for having
yeah.
me too.
All right.
Yeah.
See ya.
All right.